Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Flex and Joe back to review another day in the market. All right, so let's look at Tuesday, November 26th, right? So Thanksgiving is coming up in just 2 days. Kind of expected there to be lower volume and maybe some chop, and that's exactly what we got today. We got a pretty choppy day. So looking at NQ, here's where we closed. We made actually a very large move down overnight after the initial push up. We actually dropped 178 points. So it's a pretty sizable drop there. It did, though, bump into the bottom of this gap from the 14th into the 15th. So it retested, that initial gap down. So once we gapped down, it came back here, and maybe any stuck sellers or whoever that were still left over were there to get out, or maybe it's just convenience because it also hit off of the daily EMA. Well, why do we go so far back in time? You'll see right here. I don't know why that circle ends up so far over, but this is the low. See that it marks 7055. Go back to the 10, 7055. So it's this low right here. We come down, we tap off the daily EMA, and we actually bounce pretty hard and just continue to push up, push up, push up, and then consolidating overnight and trying to push and get over this pivot here, this session high. Setting up for our VIX strategy, candle by candle does flip short right here, but it flips short right into the 10-minute EMAs and right into that pivot high. Where we first opened the session, you see it closes back above there. So same thing into this area. There's a lot of buyers still sitting here. Obviously, you can tell if you just kind of looked at this little section where it was resistance. They broke through it, basing, and then now retesting that. So excellent confluence to go long, even though the candle by candle had flipped short. Looking at the VIX, so this gap here, this blue gap, is the same gap from the 14th to the 15th. So where we bounced out of it the prior day, we pushed up overnight, we gapped up a little bit, and we were able to continue to move back down from there, and candle by candle stayed short until just before the open, which was right around the midpoint of this gap. So I was a little bit nervous that we might see a bit of a pop, but immediately VIX started to fall off and the market was pushing. Looking at ES, same thing, right? Here's where we closed. Right here at 1550 at 6005.75. Same thing, pushes up. From this push up to this low is 42 points, so a very sizable move. Comes back, retraces, doesn't break over this high until the same time roughly on NQ. And you see the same thing, right? So trying to base over it, breaks over, trying to base, pushes higher, again, retests it, pushes higher, gives you a pre-market fake out, breakout look here to short, but can't flip candle by candle back long until much later. So let's go back and look at all three now so we can see how things were shaping up. So off the open, NQ pushes, right? One thing to note, and I'm going to call this out because I had this zone from the opening print to the high of this candle wick marked on my chart, on my normal drawing set, which you'll see right here. See, there it is, opening print from the previous day. So I want to call attention to that because that is right where we rejected out of, and this was also prior to the news, and then we had the news candle right here. So sometimes price action precedes the news. We had price rejection, and then of course the news pushes it lower. We break the low of day of the RTH into VWAP, tweezer bottom, and try to push back up. So it was really choppy and difficult to trade, especially VIX continued to move down, but the market continued to really chop. ES was much better than NQ. Because ES was, you can see, staying bullish, and while it was making its way higher and chopping, it was still, going higher. When FOMC minutes were released here at 2 o'clock, we did have a candle by candle flip short. It pushes back down. I've said many times that I don't like to take shorts in here, especially not unless the 10-minute EMAs are crossing, which they were not even close to doing. So you get the candle by candle flip back long, and you can take it long in the end of the day. So same thing here. With this push back up. I actually posted, and I'll screen share a picture of it right now. I posted a chart, and this is exactly what I did here. I just marked out this same pivot, right, where the bottom of this zone is, and I just drew an arrow over here, and you can see where was resistance, support, retest, right, and they just keep retesting it, and then you had this sort of downtrend, right? So it was looking pretty bullish. They broke out, came back. This is your Wyckoff spring manipulation underneath, and at about 2:30, I was saying that I liked the long. And which would have been right on this candle, right on this candle, sorry, right at the start around this candle. That's where I said I liked the long, and it worked out pretty well. But for how you could have traded it, especially off of the open, it was pretty difficult. It was pretty choppy with the news, and you really just had to be careful and pick your entries wisely. The VWAP was obviously a key today, and you should have been able to tell that VWAP was important once it was reclaimed right here. So it was reclaimed, base, tested, and again, and they pushed off of it. If you look at NQ, same thing. Oops. Same thing here. Same thing here. And then again, once it was reclaimed, and then you see buyers. Oops. Buyers underneath, and then that again, that manipulation underneath, and back up reclaimed right here. So this was good confirmation for the long as well after the candle by candle flip. Off of the open though, really wanted to make sure you stayed with bases loaded. So bases were loaded for the longs here. You know, and you could see that, you know, the dip buys were great. However, it wasn't holding your standard like 2-minute EMAs, and it was again like really choppy, really volatile, and people were definitely getting chopped up. You had a candle by candle flip back long here on VIX, flips short here on NQ. It is already short on ES at that same time frame, but you get no follow through where you get this VWAP break. One thing that I would call out too is after you have this VWAP break, is look how the following candle could not come down and break the low, and it just started to chop, and then immediately it went to go push back up. And once it went to go push back up, all it did was break over this candle's high, the news candle's high. So this was important. Broke over that as a definite scale trigger, and look how we came all the way back down to where we started again. So I know I have a lot of drawings on here now, but let's get rid of some of them. And you clearly have your zone after that point. You have, sorry about that. Let's do it this way. You have your news candle high, right? Respect. And you have, again, actually, this is the same zone from earlier, which we can just extend this over. So you see how the session high, right when we opened, how this was the zone. This was how they're playing ball. And this is where you got the manipulation, where they shook people out. Well, obviously, this is where stops would have been, right? Smart traders identify the zones. They have their stops down here. They get manipulated out, and it takes off. So ES was not really in a zone. Again, it was in a choppy uptrend, but still an uptrend, while VIX was in a downtrend. So you did have some wacky VIX behavior here after the minutes were released, which definitely would have made it harder to use the bases loaded sentiment. But you flip short here, which is great because now you have all three in alignment for the long. You're already long on ES. It flips back long here, rejects off of the pre-market low. And then here at 330, 1530, then 1540, it flips back short, and it's just really pushing up. So unfortunately, VIX wasn't giving you too much to utilize there. But that's it for this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all in the next one.